Hello, everyone, and welcome back to American Ultras Talk. Club football is back, and with that comes our weekly USMNT Stock Watch series, where we pick players whose stock either went up or down over the weekend based on either their performances or other factors. Now, usually it is me and Yuri, and we both pick 5 players, but since it's just me today, I'm going to pick top 3 for stock up, top 3 for stock down. It was a little bit of an uneventful week, so there might be some stuff thrown in there from the past week because we did cancel it the week before international break. So without further ado, let's get into it. And of course, at the end, we will have the player to watch, the sleeper pick to watch for the next week, and the Academy Player of the Week. But let's get straight into the first stock up, and that is going to be, of course, Ricardo Pepi. How could it not be after his hat trick over the weekend against his former club, Groningen, who kind of, don't want to say saved his career, but got him back on track after a rough move to Augsburg. They took him in on loan, and he impressed there with 13 goals in that relegation side and got him the move to PSV, and it's working out now because in just 4 starts, he's already tied for top of the Golden Boot race in the Eredivisie. He's inevitable whenever he starts for club, for country. He's always popping up with the goals. An incredible hat trick. One of the goals in particular was really, really nice, and honestly, I can't see any reason why he wouldn't start for the rest of the season. He's good enough that other clubs are kind of inquiring about him, about a potential transfer either in the winter or the summer. And if PSV don't want to lose him for cheap very soon, then he's going to have to become the starter. And with Luke de Jong out, this seems to be the passing of the torch. They kept panning to Luke de Jong. If you guys watched the PSV game, every time Pepi scored, they panned to him in the stands, and he didn't look happy. He knows his spot's being taken. Hopefully, Pepi starts in the Champions League this coming week for PSV, but a well-deserved stock up for the USMNT striker, who, it has to be said, has kind of stepped up in place of Balogun as well. So he's really taking advantage of injuries on the club and country levels. Now into the first stock down, and I'm actually going to give it to an entire game because it was the biggest game of the week for Americans, the game that I'm calling the Derby dell'Americana, the AC Milan versus Juve game. And the reason I'm giving it a stock down is because not only was it a pretty boring 0-0 draw, but Pulisic and Weah, who were both supposed to start, ended up not starting due to picking up small knocks right before the game. So not only was it underwhelming from a performance perspective, Musa and McKennie did both start, but neither of them were that great necessarily. Not that they were bad, but just didn't really impress. And Pulisic and Weah came off the bench late, but it would have been so much better to see if they were all starting. Imagine a game with 2 of the biggest clubs in Italy with all 4 Americans starting. It would have been incredible, but we're just going to have to wait for another day for that, and that's why that game gets a stock down. Just a little bit underwhelming in what was kind of an underwhelming weekend all around. But on to the next stock up, and it's going to be Paxten Aronson helping Utrecht again, coming up with an assist this time. It was nothing necessarily special, but it was a good pass to keep the play moving, and it solidified Utrecht's spot at second in the Eredivisie with a game in hand on PSV as well. So if they do win that game, then they will be only 2 points behind PSV, which is incredible, seeing how good that team is, and kind of out of nowhere, Utrecht have come. That being said, their 2 next games are at home to PSV and away at Ajax. So it's going to be a real test to see if Utrecht are legit, and they're not going to be able to get results in this game without Paxten stepping up, as he has all season. Incredible start for the Frankfurt loanee this year, and if he keeps it up, even though Frankfurt have been in incredible form themselves, also second in their league, he could easily have a spot with their team next season. And I think it has to be said, he deserves USMNT consideration, because the numbers he's putting up in a similar league as some of our other players, I think they just can't be ignored. One of the best midfielders on one of the best teams in the league. So I think it's time that we give him serious consideration. And maybe if he keeps up this form consistently until March, our next A-team camp, I don't know how you can deny him a spot, but hopefully he does. But another well-deserved stock up for Paxten. It's becoming kind of a theme for him. But now onto the stock down, and this one kind of sucks to give out because it's just such an unfortunate situation. It's going to be Caleb Wiley. He came back from injury, I think, about 2 weekends ago, or 2 match weeks ago, before the international break. Played a couple minutes off the bench in their previous 2 games. Finally gets his first start since going back from injury against Nice, and it's nothing due to his performance. He wasn't necessarily bad in that game. He was kind of just average, I would say. Nothing good, nothing horrible, really, from Caleb Wiley, but he was pulled off at halftime due to an injury, which just sucks. I mean, he just came back from a 2-month-long injury, and now he's getting pulled off early because of one again. We can only hope that it's a precaution and that he will be back soon, kind of like it was for Joe Scally. He also left the game with an injury, but he put out a tweet saying that he should be back by this weekend. So I could have included him here, but ended up not doing it. But hopefully Wiley will be back soon, because he is still so young, only 19 years old, turns 20 in about a month. And I mean, it's just so nice to see such a young player in a top 5 league. I think gets overlooked a little bit just because of how bad he was in the Mikey Varas camp a couple months ago, but he's so young, and he could eventually be that backup left back for Anthony Robinson in a year or two, maybe for the 2026 World Cup. So hopefully he's back healthy very soon. And now on to the last stock up. It's going to be a nice one here. Griffin Yao getting his first stock up of the season. And let's be honest, he started off the season very slow with Westerlo, of course, having a little bit of an injury that caused him to miss a little bit of time after the Olympics. And he missed, of course, the start of the season because of the Olympics as well. The Belgian season starts a little bit earlier than most do, but he was back. He came off the bench for the first few games, got into the starting lineup, but honestly was not really playing that well. But this past weekend in a game against Kortrijk, a 4-0 win for Westerlo. Granted, second bottom of the table, Kortrijk, but I mean, it's a good result nevertheless. And yeah, looked fantastic, completing so many dribbles. He was good on the defensive side too. He won pretty much all of his duels and his tackles, which was very nice to see as well. And of course, scoring his first goal of the season, first of many to come, I'm sure. If you kept tabs on him last season and during the Olympics, you see there's a great player in there. He just needs to find form a little bit, but hopefully this goal will revitalize him and help him push back into form. Westerlo were doing pretty good even without him being great, so they're already 7th in the table. Maybe if he can step up his form, they can push for a top 6 spot. Who knows? But now on to the last stock down. I did say there was going to be some stuff from prior weeks, and this is going to be that. It's going to be Pellegrino Matarazzo as my last stock down, because as I said, this was kind of a dull week. There wasn't really anything, not too much that was noteworthy on the good or the bad side. So I decided to pick Pellegrino Matarazzo, who I would have mentioned before if the last stock watch hadn't been canceled. He did lose his job as Hoffenheim manager, and there's already such a lack of talented American managers in the sport. Basically, they're all in MLS, and I mean, most of them aren't even good. I guess there's Jesse Marsh, who you can point to, but he's managing Canada, one of our rivals. So does that even count, really? And I mean, I guess there's Fabian Hurtzler at Brighton, but his American ties are kind of limited, let's be honest. And even then, that's only one. Matarazzo was our other one, but now he's gone from Hoffenheim. I expect him to have a lot of interest from MLS as the offseason kicks into gear. There's a lot of teams that need a new manager, and I think this 5 Bundesliga, the second division of Germany as well, will be another likely landing spot for him. So he'll definitely get back on his feet, find a new job pretty soon, but it is kind of discouraging to see our only manager really in a top 5 league get the boot, and deservedly so. Hoffenheim have been having a horrible season under him, and they just beat Leipzig just a week or two after firing him. So I think you have to say it's deserved. They're down in 13th now. They were even lower than that when they sacked him, and hopefully he recovers well, finds a good job, and takes some team to success. But it's just not a good look on American managers, and I think a lot of the emphasis has been on developing players, and as it should be. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're not really developing managers, and I think that's an important part of the game as well. So maybe something to work on a little bit in terms of the development here in this country. But that's all for the stock picks for this week. So now let's get into first the Academy Player of the Week, who I'm going to give it to 2 players. I'm going to give it to a player abroad, and I'm going to give it to a player based here in the U.S. First, we'll talk about the American-based player. I'm going to give it to Neil Pierre, the center back from the Philadelphia Union second team, but I should say the first team now, because he's getting this pick because, as it was reported today, actually, as the video comes out, he did sign his homegrown deal with the Philadelphia Union, marking his long-term future to the club, which is, I can't understate enough. I mean, how much of a massive signing this is for the Philadelphia Union. The best center back prospect in the country by far, I would say. I mean, Noakai Banks, in terms of Americans, is probably the only one who's up there in terms of prospect level, but he's not in the country, of course. He's playing in Germany. Neil Pierre is just a level above everyone else at that position. Hopefully, the new manager who comes in for the Union plays him in significant MLS games next season. He's already good enough for the level, and I mean, as a Union fan myself, I know that the other center backs in the first team are on a heavy decline, so the opportunity is there for Neil Pierre to play. It has to be said, one of the reasons Jim Curtin got fired was because he wasn't trusting the youth enough, so you have to assume that whoever the new manager is that comes in is going to give the opportunities to players like Pierre, who's so talented and probably won't be at the club for long if he fulfills his potential, because there's already significant interest from Europe. He was actually at the Mönchengladbach game that Joe Skelly got injured in this past weekend. It's unclear right now whether that's due to a trial or if he's just on vacation, but it's something to keep an eye on for the future. But now, moving into the last part of this video, the players to watch for the coming week. And we'll start with the mainstream one, and it's going to be Gio Reyna. I think it's a pretty significant pick, returning from injury over the weekend, getting his first minutes in a long time for club or country, coming off the bench for Borussia Dortmund in a pretty significant result for them. A pretty comfortable 4-0 win over Freiburg, playing about 12 minutes off the bench. It was nice to see, and they have a Champions League game midweek against Dinamo Zagreb tomorrow, as well as a huge game, Der Klassiker, against Bayern Munich over the weekend on Saturday. So it'll be a huge thing to watch whether he gets any minutes, and I guess Cole Campbell as well, to see if he gets any minutes in either game. He probably won't, given the return of injury for Gio and a couple other players, but I think it's going to be interesting because Dortmund in the Bundesliga this season are 5th. They've been doing well in the Champions League, to be fair, but I think having that extra spark of having Gio back, and I mean, we know he usually delivers for them whenever he's healthy, which, to be fair, is a rare occasion, but it'll be interesting to see if he can perform in these two games. I expect him to get a decent amount of minutes, maybe 20 or so off the bench against Dinamo Zagreb, so hopefully impresses in that. And then on to the sleeper pick to watch for this coming week. I'm going to give it to Correde Osundina, the 20-year-old Orange County product who's playing for Dordrecht in the Dutch second tier, on loan from Feyenoord, which is pretty significant, one of the biggest clubs in the Netherlands. He's been at Dordrecht for last season now, and he's back this year, and he is absolutely on fire. He scored 3 goals in 3 games. He scored in each of the last 3 games for Dordrecht, getting them up into 6th in the table in the Eredivisie. And I mean, he's hitting a form at the perfect time for them, having them in the conversation for the promotion playoffs. And this coming weekend on Sunday, they play the team directly below them in the table in 7th. If you guys don't know, the promotion playoffs in the second division of the Netherlands, the top 2 get automatically promoted, and then 3rd to 8th go to the playoffs. So this is a pretty big matchup for the season, despite how, I guess, early it is. So hopefully Osundina can not disappoint and makes it 4 goals in 4, continuing his stellar season. And I mean, if he keeps playing at this level, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that he could make the step up to the Eredivisie next year. And yeah, obviously it's a low level, second tier on the Netherlands, but he's only 20 years old. He's an 04, so there's a lot of time for him. And the fact that he's got signed by Feyenoord means that they have real hopes for his future. So hopefully he continues to progress accordingly. But for now, that's going to do it for this week's Stock Watch. A little bit on the shorter side because it was just me, unfortunately. Yuri apologizes for not being able to be in the video, and because it was kind of a slow week in terms of USMNT players. But hopefully with Champions League, Europa League, Conference League this coming week, it'll be a lot more exciting for next week's Stock Watch. And you're just going to have to stay tuned for that. A couple other videos coming out soon as well. So stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you next time.